Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter what you did, nobody really saw you? This is a story about a boy who knew that feeling all too well. A boy everyone ignored, a boy who seemed destined to be just another face in the crowd. But this boy had a secret, a quiet fire burning inside him that would one day change the world. His name was Norman Borlaug, and you've probably never heard of him, but you've definitely felt his impact every single day. Our story begins not in a gleaming laboratory or a grand university, but on a humble farm in Iowa during the early 1900s. Life was tough. Young Norman worked the fields from dawn till dusk, his hands calloused, his back aching. He wasn't the star student or the popular kid. He was just Norman, a quiet boy from a small town, his future seemingly already written in the dirt of his family's farm. He saw firsthand what a bad harvest meant: hunger. Not just a missed meal, but a deep, gnawing hunger that could haunt a family for a whole season. This experience planted a seed in his mind, a question that would follow him for the rest of his life. How can we stop people from going hungry? Most people would have just accepted it as a part of life. But Norman was different. He saw the problem not as a fate to be endured, but as a puzzle to be solved. He decided to pursue an education, a path few from his background took. He had to fight for it. He failed his university entrance exam the first time. Can you imagine? The man who would go on to save 1 billion lives failed his entrance exam. He could have given up and gone back to the farm, back to the life everyone expected of him. But he didn't. He studied harder, got in, and threw himself into a little-known field at the time: plant pathology. The study of plant diseases. It wasn't glamorous, but Norman saw a connection no one else did. If he could make plants stronger, more resistant to disease, he could grow more food. After getting his PhD, Norman didn't take a comfortable job at a university. He went where the problem was most severe: a remote, struggling research station in Mexico. The conditions were primitive. There was no fancy equipment, no comfortable lab. It was just him, a small team, and endless fields of sick, dying wheat. The local farmers were skeptical. His own colleagues thought his ideas were crazy. He wanted to crossbreed thousands of different wheat varieties to create a super wheat, one that could resist rust, a devastating fungus, and produce much more grain. It was a monumental, almost impossible task. He worked tirelessly, often 16 hours a day, sleeping in sheds and living off a meager diet. He was battling not just plant diseases, but also doubt, bureaucracy, and the crushing weight of expectation. People told him he was wasting his time. They said hunger was a political problem, not a scientific one. They ignored him. But Norman kept going, driven by the memory of those hungry faces from his childhood. He had an ingenious yet grueling idea. Mexico has 2 growing seasons in different parts of the country. So, he decided to shuttle his seeds back and forth between the 2 locations, effectively cramming 2 growing seasons into a single year. This shuttle breeding technique cut his research time in half. For years he faced failure after failure. Crossbreeding plants is a game of patience and probability, and the odds were stacked against him. But then, one season, something magical happened. Amidst rows of wilting, diseased wheat, a few stalks stood tall, green, and heavy with grain. He had done it. He had created a high-yield, disease-resistant dwarf wheat. It was shorter and sturdier, so it didn't fall over from the weight of its own grain, a common problem with other high-yield varieties. It was the breakthrough he had been working towards his entire life, but creating the seed was only half the battle. Now he had to convince the world to use it. In the 1960s, India and Pakistan were on the brink of a massive famine. Millions were projected to starve. Norman knew his wheat could be the answer. He went there, but was met with a wall of resistance. Government officials were skeptical of this foreign scientist and his miracle seeds. They were afraid to risk their traditional farming methods on something new and unproven. The clock was ticking. Shipments of his seeds were held up at the border by customs officials. It was a bureaucratic nightmare while people were starving. Norman didn't give up. He became a relentless advocate, working day and night, meeting with anyone who would listen, from low-level clerks to prime ministers. He went to the fields himself, working alongside local farmers, showing them, not just telling them, how to plant these new seeds. His passion was infectious. Finally, facing the abyss, the governments of India and Pakistan took a leap of faith. The first harvests were staggering. The yields weren't just a little better. They were double, sometimes triple what they had ever seen. The fields, once barren, were now overflowing with golden wheat. They called it the Green Revolution. Within just a few years, both countries went from being on the verge of starvation to being self-sufficient in wheat production. Norman Borlaug, the ignored boy from Iowa, had single-handedly prevented a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. He is credited with saving over 1 billion lives. 1 billion, let that number sink in. That's more than anyone else in human history. For his work, Norman Borlaug was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970. In his acceptance speech, he wasn't boastful. He was humble, reminding everyone that his work was not done. He said, "Food is the moral right of all who are born into this world." He spent the rest of his life continuing his fight against hunger, traveling the world, sharing his knowledge, and inspiring a new generation of scientists. Norman Borlaug's story is a powerful reminder that one person can make a difference. It doesn't matter where you come from, what people think of you, or how many times you fail. What matters is the fire in your heart, the stubborn belief that you can solve a problem, and the persistence to see it through even when the whole world is ignoring you. The quiet farm boy who nobody paid attention to ended up feeding the world. The next time you sit down for a meal, take a moment to think of Norman Borlaug. Think of the boy who was ignored until he did the one thing no one could ignore. He changed the world. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories about the hidden heroes who have shaped our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Who is an unsung hero that you think more people should know about? Until next time, stay curious.